Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Victoria Price. Lubbock police investigating a fatal hit-and-run accident from overnight. Unfortunately, the district is not able to provide us any information about this person who they arrested, and they say that's because this individual is a minor, so they cannot confirm or deny if the person they arrested attends Friendship ISD. Yeah, Brian, of course, everyone is talking about that patient in Dallas, but here at UMC, they actually had an Ebola scare of their own just a few weeks ago. And earlier, Lubbock Fire and Rescue did confirm that there has been at least one fatality involved with this crash, assumed to be the pilot. It's case closed for police, but the family of this Texas Tech student have now taken matters into their own hands to try and track down their son. Good evening and good to see you again. I'm Victoria Price. It's a new development in a story we first brought you last week. So this is sort of a do as I say and not as I do situation, because yes, I know I'm out here driving, granted with four-wheel drive, but if you don't have to be, I really suggest that you don't, especially when you consider the more than 130 accidents reported in Lubbock since just this afternoon. And because this is still a pretty active investigation, a lot of officials still on hand here, I think a lot of the neighbors are trying to stay out of the way, but all of those I've spoken to very visibly shaken up about what happened here last night. The family of a local hero remembering their son as this weekend marks the 12th anniversary of a tragedy in the skies above Texas. Good evening and good to see you again. I'm Victoria Price. That story in just a minute, but first, lots of rain today and a cold front on the way, so let's get you over to Kevin for the very latest. Guys, everyone I've spoken to out here on the scene says this intersection is just a notoriously dangerous one, but as far as we know, this is the first fatal wreck to happen here in recent memory. It happened where Highway 62 meets Highway 207 right in downtown Rawls, right in front of the Dollar General, actually, if you're familiar with the area. Hey, yeah, guys, you're completely right. The early voting numbers this year were down by around 9,000 compared to that last midterm election in 2010, but different story as far as the day numbers are concerned. It looks like even in the past hour, folks are getting off work, and it seems they are swinging by the polls on their way home. So now I'm going to ask Kim Davis with the County Elections Office to join us. She's going to help us kind of break down some of these numbers. What if your child was diagnosed with one of the rarest diseases in the world, a disease that causes things like blindness and even heart failure? Well, that scenario is exactly what one Lubbock family is facing. Their daughter, one of the only documented cases of Alström syndrome worldwide. Well, Lauren and Brian, tonight's the big night to determine if the Ducks or the Bucks are the best team in college football. And out here, Buffalo Wild Wings, a lot of fans I've noticed seem to be cheering for Oregon, but I'll tell you, those Ohio State fans, they are loud and they are proud. I want to introduce you to one woman I met who calls herself a die-hard Ohio State fan. Her name's Pam. She lives here in Lubbock. Pam, why such a big fan? Cars could, woo! Okay, we got some waves. We got some waves coming in from that truck, and that's just how high the water is out here. According to the Texas Education Agency, inappropriate relationships between teachers and students are on the rise. During the last school year, they investigated a whopping 179 different cases statewide. Out of those, 33% were committed by women. Now, if the leak at Servco had been any worse, crews would have had to put on a suit like this. It would protect both their lungs and their skin from hydrochloric acid. And most people expect to be the stars at their own wedding, but one Lubbock couple who was married last Saturday might have been upstaged by their very unique ring bearer, something that they say they're totally okay with. Well, good evening and good to see you again. I'm Victoria Price. Old Man Winter making an unwelcomed return to the South Plains this weekend. So without any further ado, let's get you over to Kevin in the Weather Lab for more on what you need to know. But if you think that all sounds like something out of a TV show, listen to this. A Garland man is offering up free beer for life. That's right, for life. Now I hear rolling in the mud is something Ron enjoys as well. And hey, maybe it'll even rain. You'll get your chance.
Oh, this little piggy went wee, wee, wee.
He's going to throw me in the mud later, just watch.
So this little piggy went wee, wee, wee all the way home. And
where are you going with that?
I don't know. We better go.
In the coming days, investigators will recreate the accident to try and get a better idea of what exactly happened earlier today. It's too soon to say which driver the fault lies with, but many folks I spoke to on scene say it's the intersection there that's to blame.
There's been a lot of wrecks here over the years.
Tuesday afternoon, a fatal wreck in Rawls. Around 3:30, a red pickup traveling eastbound on Highway 62 broadsided this silver Buick at the intersection of FM 207. According to his brother, the driver of the pickup was taken to University Medical Center for some injuries, but first responders pronounced the driver of the Buick dead on the scene. Rawls residents who witnessed the aftermath of the wreck say this intersection is notoriously dangerous. In fact, the brother of the pickup driver says it's the second time his brother's been in an accident in this very spot. And Rawls Mayor Heath Barrett agrees the intersection just isn't safe.
It's just a bad intersection.
While we're told this is the first fatal accident to happen here in recent memory, considering what a dangerous intersection it is, the mayor of Rawls says it was really just a matter of time until one turned deadly.
It's very unfortunate, and this is the first fatal accident that I know of that's ever been here. Like I said, there's been a lot of accidents, but nothing fatal.
But Verrett hopes today's loss may just be enough to prompt some change.
You know, maybe by this happening, that maybe we can get something changed to keep it from happening again.
Now, the intersection was partially closed to traffic for hours because of that crash, and it took accident investigators more than 3 hours to clear the scene.
Every storm is different.
Which means TxDOT's response to every storm is different too. But their advice to drivers is always the same.
Anytime we have a storm where road conditions are affected, we urge motorists, if they are citizens, not to be out on the roadway if they don't have to.
But if they must,
we ask them to drive to conditions, which means essentially driving slow.
Here in Lubbock, TxDOT says they have 3 priorities: the Loop, the Interstate, and the Marcia Sharp. Next, they move on to the U.S. highways like 84 and the higher traffic FM roads.
Now, when you travel outside of Lubbock and you go to one of our other 16 counties that we do maintain, some of those roadways in those smaller communities, their major roadways are FM roadways or state highways. So crews in those areas are going to focus on those roadways.
Now, the problem with this particular storm was a lot of rain came down before that snow, and that prevented TxDOT from pre-treating the bridges and overpasses that are really just the worst when it comes to ice.
The rain would have diluted the solution that we use to try to keep any ice from forming on there. But now that we have snow, our crews are out plowing our bridges and overpasses, and they're being followed by our brine solution trucks who are applying or treating the roadways after the crews are snow plowing the snow off the roadway.
But even with TxDOT crews working around the clock,
when you're heading out on your morning commute, be prepared for icy conditions. As long as the roadways or the pavement is wet, the surfaces are wet, motorists should expect icy conditions.
And guys, speaking of those TxDOT crews, if you happen to see them while you're out driving, just keep an eye out for them. Let's keep everyone safe here. And if you're going to have to be traveling a long distance, make sure you check out drivetexas.org. They're going to have updated road conditions from all across the state, so you're definitely going to want to check those out before you head out. Reporting live from the streets of Lubbock, Victoria Price, KMAC News. These agencies are really going back to the drawing board to step their recruiting game up. Some creating new accelerated academy programs, and others you might even find advertising on your favorite smartphone app.
I can tell you the numbers have declined.
It's a problem law enforcement agencies are facing all across the nation. Officer recruiting numbers on the decline, and the South Plains are no exception.
There's a lot of competition out there for recruits.
Some departments believe scrutiny over officer-involved deaths, such as in Ferguson, Missouri, may be creating an anti-officer attitude.
We do live in a fishbowl as police officers. However, those incidents are relatively low compared to what the number of police officers we have, so we don't want anybody to be discouraged by that.
You see a lot of negative things on the news now. It could deter someone from wanting to become a police officer. And it's sad because it's such a vital job.
It's a trend pushing some departments, like Norman Police in Oklahoma, to start getting creative, taking inspiration from Frozen in an attempt to heat up their recruiting game. Back here at home, the efforts are less silly, but Lubbock police are hopeful their new recruiting initiative will be just as successful.
We're reaching out through social media, through billboards in eastern New Mexico, Colorado, and even the Dallas Metroplex area. We've even expanded recently to game apps. For example, Words with Friends, we advertise on there as well.
And over at DPS, they've started a new accelerated academy to entice recruits with law enforcement experience. It takes just 8 weeks to complete, and within 6 months, those new troopers could be making more than $71,000 a year.
That's not small change.
But even with competitive benefits, both agencies say it takes more than paychecks to attract the right recruits.
And we're looking for a particular type of person, and that's who we want to target.
It's not about the money per se, it's about making a difference in this world.
In both of those agencies, they aren't just pushing for new recruits in general. They say they're also really pushing for female recruits, something that I found interesting. And if you have any interest in learning more about that new DPS Academy, you can find that information under this story on everythinglubbock.com.
If it is broken and they know it's broken, I expect them to fix it.
Some of the residents at the Fabian Mobile Home Park north of Lubbock currently stuck in a sticky situation.
There's open cesspools. And as you can see, there is toilet paper and turds in my yard.
All because of a backed up septic system, one that residents say has been like this for months. And they say desperate pleas to the management to fix it have been ignored.
Then it started coming in my backed up into my house. We were in knee deep in crap up to our knees in my bathroom for 2 weeks. I kept telling them and telling them and telling them. They would not listen and never have listened since.
Not only is it nasty to look at and live next to, Kramarenko says this mess means her little granddaughter can't even play outside.
I don't think nobody in their right mind would let their kids come out and play in the yards.
And she's not the only one who's had to suffer through the sewage.
I've had it coming all the way up to my steps, and there was not even no way to avoid but walking into it.
Miller says the stench is unavoidable, even inside her house, and she's afraid it's recently made her and her daughter sick, which is why she's come up with the following solution.
I think this whole thing needs to be shut down.
The whole park?
Yeah. Due to the fact that I've told them many times that, hey, we need to get something done about this whole issue, and nothing's being done about it.
Victoria Price, KMAC News.